So, first off, our first guest of our very first show is Sylvia Yuhas. Now, you may know Sylvia from some of her postings and some of her videos she's done recently on the Mr. Excel channel. In particular, Santa Baby, and I believe this is a Santa Baby for Excel users. Also, how to use wingdings and webdings for dashboards.
Oh yeah, that was a cool one.
That was a cool one, right?
It's a good one.
That was pretty slick. So I actually watched that one 3 or 4 times. So that was pretty cool. And I'm not even going to tell you how many times I watched the Santa one. That was cool stuff. Very creative. Now she lives out in the LA area, and she's been doing training, gosh, for 15 or so years. So Sylvia, would you mind saying hello and telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Excel lovers around the world. My name is Sylvia Yuhas. Sylvia, a.k.a. Xsil. See what I did there? Excel.
Clever.
Yeah, because Excel's my jam. I've been doing it as long as I can remember. I first cut my teeth on spreadsheets in Budapest, Hungary, working for Arthur Anderson. That's how old I am. But it was love at first sight, and eventually I realized I was pretty decent at it, and it morphed into a consulting life. And I do wear a lot of different hats in my Excel consulting career because, as Oz is going to agree, and Jordan, I'm sure, Excel is universal. We can go all the way back to Babylonian times, and those clay tablets, they look a lot like Excel, right? But they were made of clay and chisels, and now we have mice and a digitally rendered grid. So to those who say, you know, what's the next thing, I just say there is no next thing. Excel or some incarnation of that is going to be around as long as we exist as humans. So I'm a little passionate about Excel. Hopefully that is coming across, and yeah, so that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Well, Sylvia, since you started with Excel with the clay tablets in Budapest, what brought you to LA? What brought you to doing this full time? What did that transition look like for you? And how did you get into the video stuff to begin with? How was that kind of a creative outlet for you? How did that come about?
Well, to be honest, Rick, you know, the whole cabaret thing was just something I did to pay the bills while I pursued my dream of being an Excel whiz. So, you know, that was just a little something I did to pay the rent, and eventually that blossomed into my full-time career. Oh, I kid, of course. But you know, who amongst us haven't thought about, you know, Excel in song? So I do like to sing, and hooked up with some musicians, and there you go. So that's where the video came from. The move to California was inspired by
Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes, exactly.
You loaded up your stuff and you moved to Beverly.
Something like that. Yes, I'm actually originally from Ohio. Jordan. My people. Originally from Ohio, went to Budapest, but eventually wound up in California. Just randomly got a job offer in San Francisco, and I thought, well, San Francisco, Cleveland. I've been to Cleveland, been there, done that. So let's see what the West Coast holds, and I never looked back. So I got laid off of my very last full-time job in San Francisco, moved to LA, and thought that would be a good place to start kind of freelancing and figuring it out. And I'm glad I did, because this is truly, I think the demand for this type of service is really formidable, and there's not enough people doing it. So yeah, so here I am today.
Now I have a question.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So when you went to that band and you said, I want to perform a song about Excel, describe their face. What did they do? So I want to sing about spreadsheets.
Well, that was an interesting part of the recording session, because I was really hoping that the jokes would be funny, because none of them really had any kind of understanding of what I was talking about. With one exception, I was actually very surprised to talk to one of the bass players who was a user of Pivot Table, Oz. Their upright bass, one of their bass player guys is a big fan of Pivot Tables, so that was kind of a a crazy coincidence, but for the most part, they were just very good sports about it, and they were kind of like, well, yeah, I can tell it's funny, so I hope your people like it. And I said, I hope so too. So it was.
How many movie star spreadsheets have you? I mean, you know, I assume Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right. They
all on your Rolodex.
It's on the Rolodex. You know, I'm still holding out that Excel is kind of like, it's going to be the new black. Excel is kind of the dark horse among popular nerd memes, but it's still on the side, the uncool side of that dividing line of cool and uncool, which makes it edgy. So that means it's going to be the next case in point, like I mentioned earlier, the community episode with the Excel song.
Well, and of course, you know, and then I wrote the blog post about Excel being the Dennis Rodman of BI tools.
Yes.
Well, Dennis Rodman had to always be on the court. He didn't get the glamour, you know. He didn't get, you know, in posters dunking on somebody. But when you had to get a winner, you needed somebody who could get shit done, get those rebounds, do the dirty work, and that's been Excel.
Excel is the worm. Nice.
Unsung hero, indeed.
Yeah.
Right.
So, quick question for you then. How did you go about whenever you moved to LA and you decided to go into freelance? I know that Oz and Jordan both do freelancing as well. What was that transition like for you? So, if there are people who are watching this right now and they're a hero in their office and they're considering possibly doing this as freelance work, what was that transition look like for you? How did you go about getting your first client or getting started in that?
Well, you know, this is going to sound really noble. I pretty much make things up as I go along, but so it just sort of happened. I wasn't quite sure what my next move was, so I signed up with a few temp agencies, and I thought, well, I'll get, I need to pay my rent, so I'll get my foot in the door by, just kind of doing senior analyst work. This was on the heels of a career in wearing different hats in finance and audit, and so I kind of had, I suspected I had good chops for that type of work, but I didn't really want to go back to full time. It didn't really suit me. So I just kind of started going in on these jobs as a temp, glorified senior analyst, and then I sort of broke through by showing the client what I was capable of doing, and then one thing led to another, and I was able to get better and better gigs as time went by. But like anything, it just takes time and experience and some crow's feet to settle in on the eyes. But
and you landed a huge gig on Excel TV. So
that was really the breakthrough moment for me, quite honestly. When I got that call from your producer, it was a big celebration. So I'm really thrilled to be a part of it. So.
Yeah, we were waiting with bated breath on whether or not that you'd join us. Our producers, we were back and forth with them for quite some time on that. So thank you for finally taking the call and for joining us. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I was expecting the theme song, Oz. I thought we had a deal. I was, but
yeah, we gotta bring that back. Yes.
Okay, come on. Key of B flat. Let's go. No.
Do a duet. I want to hear you harmonize.
What could go wrong? Let's just make
something
up right now.
Google Hangout history here.
So Sylvia, I got a question.
Yeah.
Because Jordan and I were talking about this. Is how do you feel? What emotion does Excel pull out of you when you work with it?
I have to say that it is one of my greatest pleasures in life to be able to share tips with people who live and breathe Excel. I don't know what it is about the kind of I really like to tinker with spreadsheets, and I will break them down and put them back together. I love the aesthetic design part. It's a whole bag of emotions, but I think it's like what's really awesome about it is it's it's right down the middle of the left brain and the right brain, you know, because there's as you guys know, there's an art to designing stuff in Excel. That's as important as the science piece of it, right? So so I feel like it's a way for me to kind of make a living exploiting all of my talents.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of a mad scientist, inventor, wizard. What would you say?
Meets meets art. Well, here's where it all came from. My mother's an artist and my dad's an engineer, and I'm like, I think I'm right down the middle. So for a long time, I wasn't really sure what that meant in terms of a path in life, but I think that when you kind of let go of what things are supposed to mean, if you know, you don't have to be one thing or the other. You can just kind of see where it takes you, and ever since I was able to do that, that's when things really started happening, and I've been busy and blessed with a lot of work, so I can't complain.
Cool.
Well, Sylvia, you know, now that you've shot to fame, you know, for being on the show.
Yes.
Now that you're like at the top of the heap in the Excel world as a result of this show, what do you plan to do from here? I mean, what is kind of next for you? So we saw the videos that you're doing, and I've gotten the impression from talking with you there's something else planned. Is there anything that you could share with us?
Well, it is a matter of national security, so I can't tell you.
Dang it.
But no, but there will be more stuff will be unveiled. I can't make any formal announcements now, but you will see similar content being shared with the world. So I hope to be able to be a part of the movement to make Excel a popular meme. I hope to be a part of promoting a world of modern Excel, which I'm excited to talk to you guys about shortly here. So we're not exactly sure what it'll look like just yet, but I do have some plans for more video content, as well as some written content that will hopefully be a reflection of the personality and the joy that I bring to my work.
So it's all hush-hush now. You got the band under non-disclosure. That's nice.
I've got a question. Another question. Is there a typical kind of work that you do? Because when I got my experience with Excel, it started off with a lot of data cleaning.
Yes.
Yeah, and then a lot of my first clients were, we've got 16 spreadsheets that need to be together. Columns are different, all data's all different, and a lot of that kind of purging and cleansing. Then lately I've been doing a lot of dashboards and doing more workshops, custom workshops, private, for people who have some specific things that they need to learn. And I wonder, and so with Excel being able to do so many things, what are you called on to do a lot?
You know, it's a funny question. I am often called for nothing related to what I actually produce. And the reason for that is it's one of those, as you guys are probably aware, it's one of those you have to see it to get what's, if you don't know what's possible, you don't know what's possible until it's shown to you. So a lot of times it's really, my job is so much bigger than just designing the Excel tools. You know, that's that, and I think that is a rule that any developer would agree with me. There's this 80-20 rule. 20% of it is the design. You know, the actual creating of the tool, designing of the interface, the writing of the code in the background, and the other 80% is hand-holding and reducing chaos and educating people about what does it even mean to have a flat table, and kind of getting finance and IT to hold hands and be nice to each other a little bit more, and kind of liaisoning. So it's really 80% communication and 20% building.
One thing, I thought you were going to say something else, which was maybe the design aspect and then the math and formulas in the background.
Yeah.
And what I've found is that a lot of times spend a whole lot of time on design because the math might actually be easy, but you try to make a front end that's intuitive, right? So that you can put, you know, names in one place and put transactions in another place and have them all tied together versus some big scrolling thing on 100 tabs, right? But I would agree with you is that the actual spreadsheet work is often just 20%, you know, the 80% is the education.
Right. It's the education. It's really understanding what they need. And the thing that I would add to that point about the math being intuitive, one thing I have learned is never assume anything is intuitive for somebody else, because we as Excel people have, you know, special kinds of brains or brain damage, maybe you could call it. I don't know.
We have I like that.
You know, what's intuitive to someone like me or you may not be intuitive at all to your audience, and that I found has been the biggest challenge in terms of, you know, the communication. So you have to really be sensitive to who you're dealing with and what is intuitive to them versus not.
Well. But I do see some common things that are intuitive, like putting a bunch of things on month tabs or year tabs. That is a reasonable way to think. But then when you try to use more advanced features of Excel, then you got different kind of problems. But anyway, all right.
Yes, and let us not forget that you know, the biggest genius is in simplicity, right? So if it's very simple to the end user, there is some complex stuff going on in the background, to be sure. You know, so it's always when a client says, "Well, let's just make something simple." I was saying, simple for you or
simple for who, right?
You know, so that's always a challenge. You know.
Yes, it is.
Managing requirements, communicating, that type of thing. So.
Because one thing that comes up is with Excel 2013 and being able to make data models.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing to be able to do data models, and it can add to a lot of simplicity. But then if a user or a client doesn't have Excel 2013 and they do have some things that would be better in a data model, then yeah, you might be writing VBA code or a whole lot of sum ifs, and now you've got all kind of different issues with protecting those formulas. So yeah, simplicity, simple on the front. There can be a whole lot of stuff.
A whole different story in the background, right?
Yep.
That usually means there's a whole lot of, you know, it's like whenever I have a lot of kids, and whenever we need them to clean their room, that usually means, it's all clean up on the surface, but don't look under the bed, or, right? Or what I call it is it's like the doggy paddle, right? So you know what a doggy paddle is, where you're swimming, but you're like up on the surface, it looks all smooth, right? But right underneath the water, you're just kicking like hell.
Right.
So we say don't look under the spreadsheet, right? That's my point. Instead of don't
look under the hood, you know.
Don't look under the water. So Sylvia, thank you so much for joining us and with our questions and everything else. I appreciate that. I hope you don't mind sticking around for the rest of the call as we move on to our next section. Just got to jump in at any time.
Okay.